So, how does it happen? How does a franchise quarterback, a top 5 draft pick, a guy with all the talent in the world, become basically worthless in just 3 years? Well, today we are going deep inside the Indianapolis Colts' unbelievable quarterback crisis, and we're going to look at the very specific draft strategy they are banking on to pull them out of this mess. This is the story of a massive, franchise-altering gamble that went completely, totally wrong.
And it all starts right here with this number. $36,874,031. That's the fully guaranteed contract the Colts gave to quarterback Anthony Richardson, the number 4 overall pick back in the 2023 draft. I mean, this guy was supposed to be the future, the savior, whose insane athletic gifts would change the game for a decade in Indianapolis.
Think about this for a second. The Colts invested the 4th overall pick. That is a gigantic, franchise-shaping asset to get him. Fast forward to today, and according to anonymous NFL execs, his trade value has just cratered. We're talking a 5th-round pick best-case scenario. That is a staggering loss of value, well over 100 spots in the draft. So the big question, the one we're here to answer, is how in the world did it get this bad? Okay, so here's how we're going to break this whole thing down. First, we'll look at Richardson's shocking collapse and get into the nitty-gritty of why insiders say this pick was such a failure. Then, we're going to zoom out and look at the huge crisis this created for the Colts and their new game plan to fix it, including a deep dive into the actual players they might be looking at. And finally, we'll unpack this whole grit over glamour philosophy that's driving their comeback attempt. All right, first up, a star's shocking collapse. This is the timeline, right? This is how a player goes from the face of the franchise to being shopped around the league. And let me tell you, it's a fast, brutal fall in a league that has zero patience. So back in 2023, the buzz in Indianapolis is off the charts. He's drafted 4th overall, but things start to go sideways, and they go sideways fast. Late in his rookie year, boom, a season-ending injury to his throwing shoulder. We're talking a grade 3 AC joint sprain that needed major surgery. The recovery, well, it was tough. He just never really seemed to get that same velocity back, that same confidence that made him a top pick. In 2025, he barely sees the field, appearing in just 2 games, completing a single pass for 9 yards. Yeah, by early 2026, the dream is officially dead. Both sides agree it's time to find a trade, a stunning admission of failure for such a high draft pick. And that brings us right to our next section, the anatomy of a failed pick. Look, it's one thing for a player to get hurt. It happens. But for his value to drop this far, there has to be more to the story. And believe me, there is. So now we're going to look at what anonymous GMs and execs around the league are saying behind closed doors.
This quote right here from an NFL GM is just absolutely brutal. He's too much for a project for us to take on right now. See, Richardson was always called a project coming out of college because he was so raw. His physical tools were off the charts elite, but the actual quarterbacking stuff, footwork, reading defenses, going through his progressions, was way behind. But here's the real problem. 3 years into his career, he's still seen that way. A team trading for him now isn't getting a potential starter. They're getting a project, a lottery ticket that has already been scratched off once and didn't win.
Let's really dig into the big concerns floating around the league. First, that shoulder injury, it's a massive red flag. Teams are just scared off by the durability risk. Second, scouts are now going back and looking at his college tape with a much tougher lens. One exec said his offense at Florida was so basic, quote, they were running 5 plays. That raises alarms that maybe he was never really forced to develop the mental side of the game you need for the NFL. And third, and this is interesting, there's some blame being pointed at the Colts themselves, with some execs feeling the team haven't done much to bring him along, maybe by not building the right offense or coaching staff around him. You put all that together, and the bottom line is, right now, nobody sees him as a guy you can plug in and start. Now, Richardson's failure, it didn't happen in a vacuum, right? Let's move on to our third section, the Colts quarterback quandary, and see how this one bad pick has created really a perfect storm of problems for the entire organization heading into 2026. The issues are just piling up on top of each other. First, the Colts don't even have a first-round pick. They sent it away to get all-pro cornerback Sauce Gardner, which was a clear win-now move. Second, their current quarterback, Daniel Jones, is on a transition tag. That's basically a risky 1-year prove-it deal that gives the team 0 long-term security at the most important position, and he's trying to do it while coming off a major Achilles injury. And third, the Richardson disaster has left this giant black hole on the roster where their franchise QB was supposed to be. So just to recap, no top pick, an unstable starter, and a huge failed investment. It is a genuine crisis. But in the NFL, you can't sit around and feel sorry for yourself. You've got to pivot. And that leads us to Section 4, the new draft blueprint. With no first rounder and needs all over the roster, GM Chris Ballard has to get really creative and incredibly disciplined. This is the plan. So, a very clear, very logical strategy starts to take shape. The priorities are all about building a strong foundation, especially around their new star corner, Sauce Gardner. That means you've got to reinvigorate that defense. You got to add tough, smart, athletic guys at linebacker, D-line, and safety. And yeah, given the whole QB mess, finding a developmental guy late in the draft to try and groom is now a must. This isn't about finding a flashy superstar anymore. It's about injecting some fundamental toughness and resilience back into this roster. It's a pragmatic, necessary pivot born from a crisis. Okay, we are just about to meet the players the Colts could be targeting to pull off this new blueprint. But before we do, if you're finding this breakdown useful, if you're into this kind of deep dive, please take a second to subscribe to NFL Nexus and give this explainer a like. It honestly is the best way to support what we do, and it lets us keep making more content just like this. And hey, another really fun way to support us here at NFL Nexus is to check out our custom coloring books. They're perfect for fans of any age, kids, grandkids, even adults. You can grab one by using the link down in the description or just by scanning the QR code on your screen right now. We seriously appreciate all your support. All right, let's meet these potential new Colts. Okay, it is time for the part you've all been waiting for. Section 5, a deep dive into the 2026 class. With no first-round pick, every single one of these selections is absolutely critical. So let's break down who they could get, round by round, based on a post-combine mock draft. With their very first pick, way down in the second round, they snagged safety A.J. Halsey from LSU. And his nickname is Mr. Give Me That for a very good reason. The guy is a magnet for the football. He forced 8 fumbles and had 7 interceptions in college. He's the super instinctive, downhill physical player. Now, he's not going to blow you away with his 40 time, but his football IQ is just off the charts. He sees things a split second before they happen. He's the perfect tone setter for that defensive reinvigoration we talked about. Then in round 3, they get a smart, rock-solid center in Connor Lew from Auburn. He is a classic Chris Ballard pick. High character, team captain, and a master of technique. He understands leverage and hand placement so well that he can control guys who are way bigger and stronger than he is. He's immediate, quality depth, and has the potential to start for a long time. Moving to the 4th round, they pump some pure energy into the D-line with Skylar Gill-Howard. Now at 270 pounds, he's a little small for a typical lineman, but what he is a one-gap penetrator. That means his job is simple. See that gap between the offensive linemen? Explode through it and just wreck the play in the backfield. His motor never, ever stops. He's probably not your everyday guy against the run, but on 3rd and long, he's the guy you send in to hunt the quarterback. Then in the 5th, they take a big swing on upside with offensive lineman Emil Wagner from Notre Dame. I mean, you just can't teach a 6'6" frame with an 84-inch wingspan. He's a former basketball player, so his feet are incredible for a guy that size. He's very, very raw, but this is a lottery ticket on pure athletic traits. You stash him for a year or 2 with a great O-line coach and just hope you can mold him into a franchise tackle. Now we get to the late rounds, where you're looking for those low-risk lottery tickets. And in the 6th, they finally take a shot on a developmental quarterback, the super athletic but raw Talon Green from Arkansas. The guy has an absolute cannon for an arm, and he can make plays with his feet. Sound familiar? Yep, he's another project quarterback. But here's the critical difference, the investment. This is a 6th-round flyer, not a top 5 pick. It's a no-lose gamble. Then in the 7th, they grab 2 more high-effort athletes. Owen Heineke is a former lacrosse player from Oklahoma whose just relentless pursuit makes him a perfect candidate to be a monster on special teams from day one. And finally, Daquan Wright, a big 6'4" tight end with sneaky speed who can create mismatches. They're just filling out the bottom of the roster with tough, competitive guys. So we've seen the problem, we've seen the plan, and we've met the players. That brings us to our final section, grit, guts, and a gamble. What is the big picture philosophy here? And what does it all really mean for the future of the Indianapolis Colts? And here's the main takeaway, the most important point of all of this. This entire draft class is a direct philosophical response to the Anthony Richardson failure. They gambled big on glamour, on the highlight reel, and they lost. So now they're building with grit. Without that first-round pick, the entire strategy shifts to finding smart, high-character guys in the middle rounds, adding tough, high-motor players on defense, and taking low-risk chances on developmental athletes. They are not trying to hit a home run anymore. They're just trying to methodically hit singles and doubles to rebuild the foundation of this team. Which leaves us with one final question that's just kind of hanging over this whole franchise. Look, a disciplined, intelligent draft like this is the right move. It's the only move they can make right now. But is adding a bunch of solid role players and high-effort guys really going to be enough to make the fans forget the sting of whiffing so badly on a generational talent at the most important position in all of sports? I don't know. Only time is going to tell on that one. Let us know what you think down in the comments below.